So just went over these problems real quickly just to see where you're at. Tomorrow we're going to be testing, okay? Some of you might have made simple mistakes because I didn't give you a whole lot of time. That's okay. The idea is, do you understand what you did wrong? And then hopefully we don't repeat the mistake again tomorrow. So creating this video right now for everybody. And it's something that you can watch tonight. We're going to go through and talk about the different ways that we did some of these problems. And I don't care which method you use. Whatever method you use is fine with me. But the key thing is choose a method and use it. If you have one down, great, then you can master two of them. If you know two of them, then maybe you could learn a third way, okay? And not all of them have a third way, but we'll just talk about it real quickly. All right, number one, 9 plus a negative 4, okay? We could do the two ways we talked about this is start at 9, and then in which direction are we going? So we're essentially talking about a number line. We start at 9, and then when we add negatives, we move to the left, okay? So essentially start at 9 and we would go back 4 spots and we should be at a positive 5. Does that make sense to everybody? Now the second method that we talked about for doing this is one that many of you use. When the signs are different and we're adding, we just subtract the 2. We take 9, subtract 4, and we get 5. Then we keep the sign with the number that has the largest absolute value. The absolute value of 9 is 9. The absolute value of negative 4 is 4. 9 has the greatest absolute value. Therefore, our answer has to be positive. All right? Everybody okay with that? All right. Problem number 2. Negative 9 plus a negative 4. Now, if we want to use a number line, I think using a number line is kind of silly on this one, but you certainly can. We start at negative 9, and then we say, in which direction are we going when we add negatives? We're going to the left, okay? So we are getting smaller. We move 4 spots to the left, negative 10, negative 11, negative 12, negative 13 should be our answer, okay? Or if you remember the other way that we talked about this, when the signs are the same, we just add them. Just add them and keep the sign, okay? So if I look at this, I could say, well, if you already owe me $9 and then you borrow another 4, how much do you owe me? You owe me 13, okay? So I don't know, some of you may have to put like a little number, like a money problem to it, because the weird thing is, you guys understand money, okay? You understand owing people money, and you can do it that way. All right? So just make it a little money problem, and that might help you out, okay? But we want to get to the step. We want to get to the point where we don't have to make it a money problem. We just look at the problem. We can know it. We can do it, okay? That's right. If you could finish all 8 of these in the 3 minutes that I gave you, and you got them all right, I guarantee you're 4 on this. I can guarantee that you could probably teach somebody how to do this without any hesitation. If you couldn't get through it and you have most of them right, maybe your issue isn't that you aren't, your issue may not be that you're not a 4 on integers operations. Your issue might be you don't know your math facts, right? And some of you are in that boat. We don't know our math. No calculators for this test. So, all right. Number 3. Negative 4 groups of negative 7. So in other words, when we look at this, this is the opposite of negative 7 plus negative 7 plus negative 7 plus negative 7. Okay? When we add 7 plus 7 plus 7 plus 7, we would have a grand total of Negative 14 and negative 14 is negative 28. Okay, now we have to take the opposite of negative 28. The opposite of negative 28 is a positive 28. Now the easy way that we remember this, when we multiply, the signs are the same, the answer is always positive. Positive times a positive is a positive. A negative times a negative is a positive, and that should explain why right there, why it is a positive. All right. Number 4 is kind of a PEMDAS question, kind of. It really isn't multiplication commutative, so it doesn't really matter what order we multiply them in, right? But 2 times 4 is 8. Now 8 times the negative 7. Okay, signs are different, so our answer has to be negative. It should be negative 56. Okay, on our mid-chapter quiz, problem number 5. Problems that look like number 5 were our biggest issue. A lot of kids will put negative 3 for an answer. Some of you will put positive 3 as an answer. Okay, if we look at this and think about a number line, we say negative 1 subtract 4. Negative 1 subtract 4. Which direction are we going when we subtract 4? We're going to the left. So we have to move 4 units to the left from negative 1. That would get us to negative 5. Okay? Now, the other way that we talked about, we talked about like using our little integer chips. Okay? Or we said that when we think of subtraction, we can always think about adding the opposite. So we take negative 1 and add the opposite. So we're going to add, this is a positive 4, a negative 4, and we will get negative 5. Okay? Now subtraction is the one that I'm worried about the most for tomorrow for you. And whether you use a number line, you use integer chips, or you add the opposite. Find a story that you know, use one of those 3 methods and stick with it. Okay? Now, if you know all 3 of those, awesome. You're in a great spot right now. If you know 2 of them, awesome. You need to know at least 1 for tomorrow. So tonight, if this is an area that we're struggling with, choose a method and stick with it. We'll get the other 2 later. Okay? I will promise you by the time you leave 6th grade, you'll have all of these methods down. Because guess what we're doing next chapter? The exact same thing with decimals and fractions. Okay? And the negative numbers are not just going to go away. So we need to get it down. So we need to have at least 1 for tomorrow. All right. A negative 1 subtract the negative 4. Okay? Negative 1 subtract the negative 4. What happens when we subtract the negative? Yeah, subtracting the negative, we move to the right. And this is where adding the opposite might help you out. If we add the opposite, we can easily see here that we add the opposite. So that's negative 1 plus a positive 4. And that should give us a positive 3. Okay? All right, then division. Division and multiplication, the rules are the same. It's all because of fact families. Okay? So a negative 24 divided by a positive 6, when the signs are different, the answer is negative. Negative 24 divided by 6 should give us negative 4, and here's why. Negative 4 times 6, signs are different, answer's negative. Everybody okay with that? That's why. All right, negative divided by a negative is going to give us a positive. We should get a positive 4, and here's why. 4 times the negative 6 equals negative 24. All right? So, I'll make this video available for you tonight if you need to go through and review it. Great reviews for everybody tonight. We've been doing C1 through C7 in IXL. I asked you to get to 80. Do you know what I would do if I were you tonight? I would get, I don't know about 100. Just because there's a little bit of pain involved with getting to 100, with how many points you lose and what you gain. But I would say if we can get to 90, that will give us good practice. And that way, if you get below 80, you have to practice even more. Right? Everybody understand? All right. So there's my little tip for you on that. Find your story that works for you on these problems. Use the story and know it really well for tomorrow. If you know all three, man, you're good to go.